Hey everyone, we hope you have had a lovely Christmas break and are enjoying your school holidays. We are delighted to be able to bring you this bonus episode and hope that it might inspire you as much as it did for Grace and I. Because we recorded this over the internet, we just wanted to flag that the audio quality isn't quite up to its usual standard, but we hope that you still really enjoy the conversation as much as we did. We'll be back to our regular release schedule once the term gets underway here in New South Wales, but for now, we hope you enjoy.
Hello, and welcome to the Teaching Together podcast, where we celebrate and share the glows and grows of teacher life. I'm Grace.
And I'm Sierra. Today we are bringing you a bonus episode, which will hopefully give you some inspiration as you start to get back into thinking about school after a well-deserved Christmas break. And joining us to help deliver on the inspirational front is Andrea Hillbrick. Hi, Andrea.
Hello, everyone. Such a delight to be with you guys to talk about building a community and helping teachers start the school year.
We are very, very grateful for you giving your time to share with us today and to talk about some really practical strategies and activities that we might take into our classrooms for 2025. We thought doing this as a bonus episode during the holidays would fit really well because it's starting to get to that point in January where a lot of teachers are trying to click their brains back into school mode. And some of us know heaps about our classes and allocations already, so we can get really stuck into some detailed planning. But others might not have any idea what their allocations are yet. And I know certainly that was the case for me when I often wouldn't know my classes or have access to online learning systems until we went back for staff week. So I used to kind of have like a rough idea of the subjects I might be teaching, but it was always subject to change. But that's not the case for everyone. And it's just nice to be able to go into the year feeling a little bit prepared for something, even if you don't know exactly what you're going to say. There's nothing worse than rocking up on the first staff day and you finally got like programs that you have been waiting for and you open them up and you realize that they kind of suck. And then you've got to rush around like stressing about how you're going to put together your good first impression opening lessons. So what we've decided to do with this episode is ask Andrea to tap into her wealth of knowledge and experience to see what strategies and activities she would pack into her teacher bag, so that whether you're currently in the planning phase or the I'm still waiting to find out what the heck I'm doing this year phase, you've got some tried and tested ideas and activities up your sleeve for designing purposeful and engaging lessons. So, before we dive into all of that, Andrea, I was hoping that you might be able to share a quick introduction of yourself for our listeners and tell us a little bit about your teaching journey and what it is that you do at the moment.
Oh, I'm excited, and I like a really good teacher bag actually. So I do have one with my name on it, which is pretty spiffy. So so I have been a teacher for 36 years. And I'm a primary school teacher, but for 18 of those years, I've been an educational consultant, and I have collaborated with teachers up to about year 10. So I have had the best opportunity to work across Australia and meet the most amazing educators and learners. So that's what I do. I think the main thing about what I love about what I do is I had this amazing experience early in my career in Victoria. I'm on the Great Ocean Road, folks, so I live in Jan Juc in Victoria, and I was invited into what we call Education Department's central office to write a whole state program around literacy and numeracy. Now, that's a long time ago, but from that experience, I became absolutely, totally addicted to helping people with their craft. So I was lucky enough to publish, looking on my shelf, 7 books before becoming a consultant. But my drive is supporting teachers. That is my total drive. That's what I do. and why I do it.
That is so cool. And I'm honestly just so excited to be talking to you, Andrea.
That's great.
And it sounds like you would have had lots of glows and grows through all of that. And you would know that we love to start every episode sharing a glow or a grow. Did you have a glow or a grow or both to share to kick us off?
Yeah, I certainly do. Like my glows, I've got so many, but I was just thinking about my holiday glows, right? So first of all, the best thing about what I do, the best thing is when I get either tagged in a post or a DM from a teacher that I've connected to online or a part of my partnership schools, and they send me something. So it might be, hey, Andrea, you'd love this book, or here's a photo from my classroom, or we're starting our school year developing a unit about mindfulness. Can you help me out? That is the best thing ever, right? Especially when it's like the other day I got a beautiful photo of some maths equipment. They were in a shop, these two teachers, gorgeous friends, and they're going, you need to buy these dice. This is Mrs. H all over. It's like, oh, okay, that's cool. But on this side, I've just read this brilliant book called Thunderhead by Sophie Beers, and I'm really trying to connect with Sophie to have a book chat with me. So it's a brilliant book. If you're a teacher of year 3 and up, it would be my novel for the start of the school year. It is absolutely brilliant. So there's 2 glows and a grow. So I'm still learning this. So my grow is stop trying to do everything at once.
Yes.
After 36 years, I haven't quite got that yet because I get passionate, right? I find something new, I get passionate about it, and I think, like, I have to do it now. So I don't know how you guys manage it, but what I do is on my back of my office door is this array of beautiful coloured Post-it notes, and it's called my ideas board. So when I have an idea and I can't quite do it yet, I put it up there so I don't forget it. Okay? So then I don't worry about forgetting it. I put it up there and I've got this beautiful collage of ideas that I'm not getting to just quite yet. So that's how I have to, that's my grow.
I love that. That's awesome. I'm already writing that down as a tip.
Now that sounds really cool. And I think it's really encouraging for us as young teachers to hear from someone more experienced that is still like a real struggle for people. And I know that I often feel, especially at the start of the year, like that I'm just full of ideas on what I've got to do better this time or what I want to try differently. And sometimes I just have to go, no, I'm just going to pick one thing to focus on this year. And when I can make that the norm or a habit, or I've built that resource or whatever it is that I'm thinking about, once I've ticked that off, then I can try something else. But it's very easy, especially when you're really passionate and you're doing lots of reading or researching, and you're always like getting confronted with new and exciting ideas and ways that you might want to do things. It's really hard to rein it in. And if you don't, then you can just kind of feel really devastated that maybe you haven't done any of those things particularly well.
Yeah.
And also, you know what we forget to do? We forget to celebrate.
Yes.
So sometimes if we've got too many goals or projects on the go, we don't take that authentic, purposeful time to celebrate that you've achieved that. So, you might everyone celebrates in a different way. I mean, you girls would celebrate with tea, right? Sit down, have a nice tea, right?
Yeah.
I might celebrate with taking a longer beach walk because I live by the beach and giving myself, I'm going to celebrate this. So that's another thing that's really important to me, to be strategic. So I do have that time to go, yes, I've done that, this little thing or this major thing, and I celebrate. That's something I see all the time. That we don't allow ourselves as educators, teachers, leaders, that time to celebrate. We just go move on to the next thing. And I think that's really important.
Yes,
it's really important.
That's a really good point. Like I got to the end of my first year of teaching at the end of last year, And I think I was talking to someone at work and they were like, congrats, like you finished your first year, like you're going to celebrate. And I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that. I was just going to collapse into a heap and then start working for 2025. I love that. Thank you, Andrea.
Yeah, maybe I'll make that my goal this year.
Yeah.
Not just getting so stressed and not treating every reflection moment as how I do better.
Yeah.
But maybe first, like, what did I do well? Which is what we ask kids to do when I say, how did you go? And then how will you grow?
Yeah, you got to kind of do that self-talk. What's a win? What's been a win for me, right? And we celebrate a win, even that language saying, what's a win? I think that's cool.
Yeah. The glow that I was thinking about actually kind of relates to what we were just talking about in terms of my brain has done lots of background reflecting on last year. And you were saying, Andrea, trying not to do everything all at once. And I've thought, I know that I want to improve on this and this area and this area and this area. And I'm like, wait, I can't do like 17 areas of improvement all at once. I probably focus on one. But also, what we were just talking about, I also want to be able to celebrate, like, I made it through my first year of teaching, and how cool is it that I've got this experience now that I can go, I really like the way that worked, that I maybe want to focus on this or whatever. And I think I also want to try and be a bit more positive just on a day-to-day basis and go, not that, thank goodness I made it to the end of the day, but like, this is a great day that I got to do my dream job. Like, it might have been really challenging, but like still got to teach. So, I mean, yeah, I think that'll be a work in progress, but that's just from this conversation we just had. That's kind of an area I want to see myself growing in this year, so that I maintain my enthusiasm for teaching, hopefully for 36 years and more.
Well, before we get stuck into our strategies and our top 10 things to put in our teacher bags, we have to ask you a very essential question, and that is, are you a tea drinker?
I am. And I was so excited today because a couple of things. Firstly, my granddaughter is a teacher. So I wanted to plug that. Hi, Em. And she introduced me to this beautiful Yorkshire tea called Toast and Jam, which is delicious. And not only have I made it, and I have it on a special occasion. I don't know why. Hey, I could use it as one of my celebration ideas.
Hey, good.
But I am having my tea out of an Alison Lester Magic Beach cup. And I know you can't see it, folks, but I'm telling you, it is special. I just adore this tea because I'm quite a sweet tooth as well. It's not over sweet, but it's, yeah.
I really wish I was, I wish I was drinking Toast and Jam tea out of an Alison Lester mug right now. That just makes me so happy. Like, I can't.
Well, I have made myself a pot of New York breakfast, which Grace very kindly gifted me for Christmas this year. And I'm really liking this. And I'm also drinking a black, which is a bit unusual for me. And I'm actually really enjoying it as a black tea.
I too am drinking New York breakfast, but I did want to plug my favorite tea at the moment. It's a green oolong with some kind of fruity, rosy thing. And it's very refreshing. If I haven't already said it on the podcast, oolong berry is very close behind French Earl Grey. Like, it's very close. I love it so much. And right now in the middle of summer, it's quite refreshing. So I love that one. Anyway, now that we are enjoying our nice hot cups of tea, I think we're finally ready to get stuck into some very scintillating conversation about Andrea's metaphorical teacher toolkit. So, Andrea, please take us through your top resources that you think teachers should know about.
Oh, you know what? It was so hard to narrow a list down for you both, but I think I've got some really cool teaching strategies. So let me just talk to you about, before I start sharing why. So number one, in my role now as a consultant, what I like to do is support my teachers to get their toolkit with strategies that they can reshape or differentiate across year levels. But it needs to promote creative thinking. we are creative people, right? That's why we're teachers. So I'm really into open-ended, still explicit teaching, but the actual things are in my teacher backpack or toolkit needs to be able. I need to be able to use them across lots of year levels. Okay, so I need to get the best out of them. So let's start and see what you think. So one strategy. So in my toolkit or my backpack for this strategy, all you need is paper and something to write with. So number one, how cool is that? And this strategy is called hidden responses. So what you do is you have your learners sitting in small groups. One large piece of paper per group. So perhaps A3 or even larger for our little ones, Grace. When we're doing this with our little ones, they draw and instead of write. Okay, see how, like, this is how we work through. So you pose a question and then you get your learners. The first learner in group would do their response, either write it or draw it. So it might be something that you might use when you start the year. So it might be, what's something that you like to do outside? So I don't know about you guys, but I love to walk on the beach. So I draw and write that. You haven't seen my response, okay? Then I fold it over so it's hidden. Then I pass it to you, Grace, and then you write or draw what you like to do, which could be, what do you like to do outside?
My dog.
Beautiful. And then you fold it over. So now Sierra can't see your or my response, and she would write?
Making something at my sewing machine.
Perfect. And then what we do, at the end, we unfold it and explore each other's responses. So with our older learners in secondary, it could be about a character that we're exploring in a novel or a hypothesis that we're exploring in science. Or in our kindergarten classroom, it might be about what materials do we like to use? Like, what are our sensory? Oh, I love Play-Doh, or I love water. You know what I mean? And it just builds this great excitement because when we unroll it, we'll go, wow, you know, and what's the same and different? What have we learned from each other or about each other? It is a ripper.
I love that. I can already see myself using that. That's so good.
Yeah, and I think I love the idea of, like, this example question that you gave. It wasn't about like a right or wrong answer.
And once you teach your learners like the protocol or the sequence of this learning, you just use, reuse, recycle across the year. So this is something with my teachers that I work with in their classroom, we set this up in term one and we use it through the year. So you can imagine how quick the kids get at it. You know what I mean? They're like, and sometimes your learner will say, let's do a hidden response for this, Mrs. H. Okay, they'll say to me, this is a really cool one to do a hidden response because we want to find out everyone else's opinions and see how they're the same and different.
I love it.
Piece of paper, something to write or draw with, tick, easy. The next idea I had is more about materials that I would have. So by the way, my whole garage is all like shelved with materials. I am 36 years of collecting things, so there's a lot. But one thing I cannot do without is dominoes.
Yes.
Like dominoes to me are something I can use right across many, many levels. And they're accessible and they're quite inexpensive to buy. I mean, not all schools have everything that you want, but dominoes is something that I would make an investment in if I had to. Not that I think teachers should spend a lot of money on their things, but this is one thing I would. We can use them for subitizing. We can use them for addition, multiplication. If you turn them so they're vertical, they have a line in them, which is a vinculum, which is a part of a fraction. We can use them for matching. We can lucky dip a domino and find a partner who's got the same total dots and do some collaborative learning with them. It is one thing that I have used for so many things. So they actually live in my bag. actually in my physical teacher bag. So whenever I'm teaching, my dominoes are there. They've just never let me down. So that would be something. And I'm not plugging because I know that we're not sponsoring, but I tell you what, and I don't always buy my things from here, but Kmart at the moment have got the most beautiful wooden ones that are very, very great colour, very sturdy. Yeah. And, I don't go there for everything, but that is a good place at the moment.
Oh, we love a good Kmart recommendation, I have to say.
The next one I want to talk to you about is this is odd one out, and you both could use this teaching strategy in your classroom. I think anyone could reshape this. So what happens is you as the teacher design a list of 4 or 5 words or 4 or 5 images, pictures. And then what you ask your learners to do, it's really good for review, this one, is to identify the word or picture that does not relate.
Yeah, okay.
Even with your kindy kids, Grace, you could actually be using objects if you didn't want to do images.
Yeah.
It's so good for vocab. So, and what they have to do, your learners have to tell you which one is the odd one out, but they have to give you their reasoning. So sometimes I'll use it to explore spelling patterns. Sometimes I'll use it to explore words that relate to a topic, or a word to describe a character, or words to describe settings. But what I'm getting my learners to do is I'm getting them to connect all the information they possibly can and then justify their thinking.
Yeah.
And when I do it the first couple of times, the odd one out is quite obvious.
Yeah.
And then you just take it deeper and deeper level. But it's the conversations the learners have about their why is where the learning is. Preparation time, teeny tiny. Love it.
Yeah, we love that. And I was just going to say, Andrea, that I found it difficult last year to get my kindy kids talking about why and explaining their thinking, because they didn't quite understand what I meant. They didn't know what I wanted them to do, and I didn't quite have the vocabulary to explain that to them. But I think this would be a really good way of just, even from term 1, just getting them to practice thinking out loud, so that I can see whether they've understood the concept or whatever, and they can practice, talking about their thinking with their peers instead of just to me, which we also practice. That is so good. That is such a good resource. I love it.
I kind of, in my head, I'm visualizing in your classroom, Grace, that you might have like 4 boxes or containers with one in each, where the learners could actually come up and move it to say, I think this one is the odd one out. So it's a little bit more physical, right?
Yeah.
So they can actually, Sarah, I'm thinking in your age group of students that you might give them some independent thinking time and then perhaps pair time.
Yeah.
Before you do the share. So you're building up that collaborative nature in accepting different people's opinions about things.
Yeah, I've done a similar thing to like what you're saying with my HSC class, where I had to get them to think about ethical considerations for designers. And I mean, it's just such a kind of intangible topic that it was really hard to kind of design something engaging and interesting for them. And I ended up just making a table with a list of ethical concerns, and they had to just rank them in order of priority, and then discuss with each other, why they gave certain ones certain ranks. And not everyone ranked everything the same. So I guess it's a branch of that, and they weren't necessarily saying this one doesn't fit at all, but it's really, I can imagine that as you're posing more complex ideas, some students will think that the odd one out is something different than what the next person thinks the odd one out is.
Yeah.
And their reasoning might be perfectly justified. It's so much more valuable for their learning than if I was to just tell them the best order or which one doesn't fit.
Yeah, I have to say, hand on heart, I'm often surprised what the kids come up with as the odd one out. I haven't even thought of it. And it could have been, right? And I actually share that with them. And they're like, because when I'm in classrooms, my name's Mrs. H. And they go, Mrs. H, couldn't you see that? And I go, no, I couldn't. But now you've got me thinking a different way. And I thank you for that, right? Because, and it always amazes and inspires me.
Yes.
It's so cool. And if you think about the 3 tips I've shown you so far, or shared with you so far, and once you've got these in your toolkit and you see it through different lenses, so, I can look through my mathematician lens with odd one out, history lens or humanities lens, ICT lens. I don't need to say odd one out is what I use when I'm teaching mathematicians. I can use it in teaching vocab, spelling, you know what I mean? And that's how I think we support each other and try and get something, instead of getting something new all the time, how do we reshape this? They're like little protocols for your classroom, right? Like little things that you teach your kids, right? That's how I see it anyhow.
Yes. I found that my kindy kids really responded well to established routines, and like, we've done this activity before and they loved knowing what to do. And I was actually, was I saying this to you, Sierra? Yes, I think it was because we were talking about this episode, and I was saying that I really wanted to set up my own teacher toolkit with stuff like this, where I can just whip it out in whatever context.
Well, you were saying, especially if you kind of get to the end of a lesson and maybe you've got 5 or 10 minutes to go.
Yes, because I found I was like, I know like 2 math games, and we play those same ones all the time, but like, yeah, these are all much more, they encourage much deeper thinking than the ones I can't currently have. And I'm so excited already to sit down on my laptop and make a note of all this and just like have my teacher ready to go. Like, I'm so excited, and we're like halfway through. This is so good.
That's cool. I'm glad you can make some connections. The next idea is I use think boards in mathematics all the time. In fact, I love anything 3-dimensional. So in a mathematics think board, there is typically 4 sections, and the mathematicians have something from the center that they have to solve in 4 different ways. So it might be an algorithm, it might be a number, it might be a worded problem. I like to use chip and dip trays as my 3-dimensional think boards. I'm going to use that store. I've mentioned it twice, but anyhow, so I do get them from Kmart, but you can get them from any party shop. But this year, I had an amazing project with one of my partnership schools around vocab, and what I designed was a word think board. Now, I'm going to share a secret. I'm actually addicted to children's literature. Okay. So all my vocab comes from quality text. So I always teach vocab through a text, and these think boards have either 6 or 9 sections, and I model explicit teaching how to use these think boards. So it might be about morphology, it might be syllables, meaning, put it in your own words, etymology if it fits. So you can change the section of the think boards. But what I'm doing here, guys, is I know that think boards work with my mathematicians. So why would I let it just stay there, right? Because I think this is proven. So I've just applied it to a word think board. And the reason why I've called it a word think board is because the learners I work with in my schools, they already know what a think board is. They go, oh yeah, Mrs. H, we're going to do exactly the same. Yeah, we're doing exactly the same, but we're exploring vocab. I've loved doing that this year. It's been quite new for me. I've had some beautiful opportunities to model some lessons with it. And I've got my fingers crossed, folks, because you can't see it. So far, so good. I've had all okay lessons with it, So part of my job, girls, is that I get video teaching. So I I often want to have a good lesson, not so,
Yeah, having to be videoed teaching, disgusting. I did that earlier this year as part of our school mentoring, like peer coaching program, and it was only for like 10 minutes. It was the most stressful 10 minutes like ever. At that point, it was in term 1. I was like, this is so stressful. Like, why did I choose to have my lesson video? This is horrible. And then watching it back, I was like, cringe. So, Andrea, you're very brave.
You stop the cringing after a while.
It's like when we started recording and then we just had to get comfortable with listening back to our own voices for editing.
Exactly. True. I thought I'd put something in my collection for the start of the year. And what I do is I use this in a lot of ways. So sometimes I use this strategy to introduce myself to my learners, or sometimes I invite my learners to create their own. And what it's called is a history tin. I particularly like to use it. I work with schools on inquiry learning as well. And this is something we would always think about when we're planning for humanities. So I have a very old biscuit tin, and inside my biscuit tin, I put all artifacts in about myself. So when I meet a new group of people, learners, sometimes I use it with my teachers too, I unpack my history tin. So inside my history tin is a shell to talk about my love of the beach, is a little toy dog, because there's not been very many years in my life that I've not had a dog. There's a packet of jelly, because my favourite thing to eat are jelly cakes. I don't know if you know what jelly cakes are. They're cupcakes that are being soaked in jelly and then filled with cream.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. And I'm not good in the kitchen. I can make these, so that's really cool. I've also got a balloon in there because celebration is very big in my home. I think celebrating is really important. And I've got a set of Babushka dolls, which is my very first toy. So they are 57 years old. Also in there, I've got something my grandma did some handwork on, so to talk about family. So this history tin, I really, invite people to think about what is it about themselves that makes them unique, and how do we share that with our learners? Hey, if you're not into making a history tin, that's okay. Could it be a montage of photos? Or learners love knowing a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I could take a toolbox
Yes.
into my workshop and unpack that with my Year 7 classes in my first week back with them when I'm getting to know them. Yeah, like, here are some things about me. Because I normally do here's some things about me. And there was this beautiful student that I had in my class last year who, when I, obviously at the start of the year, as part of my get to know me thing, I told them about how I've been renovating my house, which I've been doing for quite some time now. But I felt like that was maybe applicable because, we're learning practical skills in a workshop. And I had some like before and after pictures of things that we'd done. And this beautiful student would come up to me in the playground, like at increments throughout the whole remainder of the year, and ask me like, how's your house going? And what's the floor plan looking like? And I was just like, how do you remember this? But I don't know, it really made me feel like, even if it's not for all of them, that some of them actually really appreciated getting to know a little bit about who I was, and that made our relationship in the classroom so much better for the rest of the year. Yeah.
Yeah, and humanizing yourself as a teacher, I think that's something I value personally in my own personal pedagogy. But at the start of kindergarten last year, we did basically a history tin. I can't remember what we called it, but it was basically that. And kids had to bring in 3 objects from home to share. And it was really sweet to see some of the things they brought in. Like, some of them brought their stuffed animals that they'd had since they were babies, and photos of their families and things. But I'd never considered doing it myself. But I think this year when we do it again, I will bring in my own, because my kindy kids especially are very curious, and they want to know about everyone and me included, and they also sharing about themselves. So I think that'll be really fun to be involved in that with them. But this activity I think is just really fun.
I think the key word here is authenticity, right? It's authentic.
Yeah.
It's accessible, has multiple entries for every child. Like, because what you bring or what, if the students make it, they know about it, right? So success.
Yeah.
But, I can be in a playground, walking across a playground, and I'll hear this, "Hey, Mrs. H, eaten many jelly cakes lately?" And I'll go, "No." So, and that could have been like 2 years ago. Like, these are my partnership schools I stay with quite a while, but that's what they connect. All my dogs called Mr. Murphy. Is Mr. Murphy, how's Mr. Murphy go? Now, then I have got a connection, right? And I can say, hey, I've just read this really cool book about a dog called Barney. I think you should go in your school library and find it. It was great. So what I'm doing here, okay, see that authenticity? I think connections, I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I think authenticity is just important generally, but I found it works. It just pays dividends in the classroom.
Yeah.
I'm just a big fan of authenticity.
Yeah, you read it all the time, authentic, meaningful learning. Or what does that look like? I think that's cool.
Yeah.
Are you ready for the next one?
Absolutely, yeah.
So visualize, okay? A wall. It's going to be an interactive thesaurus wall.
I love it already.
So I use colour manila folders only because I'm a stationery queen, but you don't need to use those, okay? You can use coloured cardboard. So on the front of the pocket, so I've joined the manila folders up so they're a pocket. You with me so far? Yep. And on the front of that pocket, I have been exploring my writer's writing, and I've been mining for those words I want them to up-level. So on the front of that pocket might be a word for, say, good. I can see that my learners are using the word good. So I'm going to challenge them to up-level that word good. And what we're going to do is I'm going to explore those words, the alternate words, write them on coloured strips, the same colour as the pocket.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's a red pocket on red strips, and we put them inside.
I love it.
So when I'm editing, modelling editing with my learners, I'm going to go over to that pocket and I've written good. And we as a class decide it's not very engaging for my reader. So I'm going to go over to that pocket and I'm going to model how to use this interactive thesaurus wall.
Yeah.
And I'm going to build that across the year.
Yep.
Okay. So it might be, I'm thinking, Grace, for your students, it might be not even what we're using in our writing, is like how we're talking about things.
Yeah.
So let's not just say something was fun. What other words can we use to do that? So yeah, I love this. Now, did you hear the little tip in there? Make sure your colour words are the same colour as your pocket.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to share you a story.
Oh, yep.
We created one in a 5-6 classroom, the teacher and I, and we worked really hard on it, but we put all the words on white.
Oh.
So when we came back, because the students would go back out, get the words, take it back to their writing, getting them all back in the right pocket.
Nope.
Ooh, and the kids were getting quite upset because they want it to be perfect because they built it with us, right? It was their wall, not my wall. And they're like, oh, where does this word go? Because some of them could go in a couple, you know what I mean? So colour coding is the key.
I'm loving this because obviously in a secondary classroom, not many teachers have the luxury of having their own rooms.
Mm-hmm.
So there's often a lot of people that want to put something on the wall and only so many walls put something on. And in a workshop, my rooms, I often find that because of the arrangement of all the tools and machinery, there's even less wall space to put anything on because you've got to have all your safe operating procedures up behind all the machines and things like that. But one thing I always find myself saying to my students is when they do their design sketches, they often have to do like a PMI plus minus interesting kind of little evaluation of their work. And whenever I get them to do that, I always remind them of like the banned word. Oh, it's a cool design. And I'm trying to help them see how when you design something that caters for that success criteria, they're the things that make it a plus. Or when you're designing for your target audience, they're the things that make it a plus. And so I can see how even maybe not a full-on thesaurus, And in my room, I could maybe have like a plus minus interesting wall with alternate words or phrases that they could use to help them construct really meaningful reflections on their designs, not just it's cool or it's hard to make.
I just think getting the learners involved and being really be explicit with them, the PMI is something we're using all the time. It's a really successful tool. We need to mix up our vocab, or we need to improve our vocab, or I just think, having that. And also you saying about your success criteria too there, Sierra, making sure we're up-leveling our vocab in that so the learners can borrow that as well. It's really cool.
Yeah. No, I like it.
Are you ready for another one?
We are.
I am learning so much that my brain is exploding, and I just want to talk to you forever.
I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a dice game this time, and it's going to be, I'll do the best because obviously you can't see, but I'm thinking I might put it on my blog with a little video. But anyhow, I'll tell you about it. So I learned this from a year 9 teacher in a country town here in Victoria. I was coaching her. Guess who learnt the most? Me. I love the maths lesson, and I'm I'm trying to give her air hugs through the lesson. This is amazing. So what it is, you have a numeral die and you have a cube. I just get them from the $2 shop, the blank wooden cubes. And on the blank wooden cubes, you have D or S on each side, double or single. The game is called Tennis Anyone. So I'm playing with a partner. I roll the numeral die. I roll the tennis die. And if it lands on S for single, my score stays the same. If I land on D double, my score doubles. And we play it for 5 goes. Okay?
Yep.
And I'm adding my total the whole time. It is so cool to get kids to double and to learn a running total. But the student in this classroom, not the teacher, so the teacher allows for student voice, said, I've got an idea about this game. Let's get another cube and write F for forehand, B for backhand. So you roll the numeral die. So I've rolled 7 again. I've rolled the tennis die, single or double. I'm on double because I like to win, 14. Then I roll the third die, and if I have rolled forehand, that means I add it. But if I roll my backhand, means I subtract it.
I love this. This is awesome.
It is such a cool game, and I learned that from an awesome mathematics teacher in year 9 who celebrates student voice. Imagine if that mathematician was in a classroom where the teacher did not ask them, how could you improve this game? How could you make it better?
Yeah. My little kiddos could do that eventually.
Dot die, exchange the numeral to dot die, give them some tens frames.
Yeah. Because I had kiddos who were doubling all over the place by the end of the year, and I had some who weren't quite there yet, and we didn't really address it as part of our addition subtraction explicitly. But that's so good.
So think about it this way. The students who are not ready for it as much yet, make their wooden die with more S's on it.
Yeah. It's so easily differentiated. Yeah.
Because you're a creative thinker. Just going to say it again.
Yes.
There you go.
I am just glowing with teacher enthusiasm right now.
Well, you both are doing an amazing job. You've not seen these strategies in my toolkit before, and you've both been able to reshape them. So, bravo to you. Okay, the next one is this big book of learning. So an A3 artist drawing book, so blank paper. And throughout the year, you document your learners' thinkings and strategies in the book. And the book travels across, and you go back and you revisit it. And you go and you date it. You go, in March, as learners, we were saying, these are our glows and grows. You could use that tool. This is what we're really having a win with, but this is something we're still working on. And here in May, we've documented, we've noted that we've got that now. So it's showing a learning journey across the year, and calling it a big book of learning gives this real clear message in our classrooms. That's what we're on about. We are learners, and we're here to learn.
I'm really excited about this idea because so my students get exactly one of those, like a visual arts diary, when they arrive in year 7 and another one in year 9. And we just call it their design books. And I often just feel like I'm not really sure what to put in them because so much of what we do is on our iPad. And so I feel like they actually just end up as a huge waste of paper, and they get lost because they're used so infrequently. I'm interested. So I guess when you say that it's for documenting strategies, and like, can you give me a few examples of like what you've actually seen physically go in or on the pages?
So what I do is strategically implement or explicitly teach reflection strategies through the year. So because your learners would be doing it independently, Sierra, I would still be modelling those in here. So what I do is I explicitly teach the strategies I want them to use in their individual big book of learning or as a class. So for example, I've got here bumper stickers. So the strategies are bumper stickers. So make a bumper sticker statement about your learning or about the skill you use today. The next one is vote. Let's vote on the strategies that helped us today to reach our success criteria. So what I'm doing here is I'm mapping learning and reflection. And I equate it to a shopping experience because I do like to shop. If you take something back to a store and because you're not happy with it, or if it's not, and you talk to someone and you say, look, I'm really not happy with this. May I get a refund or a credit? No, it wasn't really what I want. And they just nod their head. You think, you're not going to do anything about this. But when they pull out a pen and paper and they go, oh, now, Andrea, your name is this. Now, what will, you think, wow, you're actually, I don't know, this is real. You're jotting it down. You're taking action. So what I'm saying to my learners here, I value your reflections. I value your bumper stickers. I value your handy hints. I value, so I'm going to put them in my big book of learning because it's so important to me. And then when you ask the learners to do that themselves, you would just open that up as a worked example, Sierra, and they'd write their own.
Yeah, we do lots of work with habits of mind at my school.
Well, perfect.
Yeah, and I was just thinking because I was having a lot of trouble last year thinking, how do I consolidate this when there's like 16 different habits and I have to teach content as well as all this other stuff. But I'm thinking if we, like every so often at regular intervals, think what habits of mind, maybe we pick a habit of mind that we're focusing on as a class and how have we used that so far, and just have it all in one place. Like even if at the start of the year, I just have one as our class when, we're working on handwriting and things, but maybe towards the end of the year when they're more comfortable writing and that kind of thing, they can start their own little ones. Just the possibilities are endless, but that really clicked for me. That's such a good idea.
And all the thinking routines.
And all the thinking routines.
As well. Yeah.
Metacognition is such a difficult skill. I find it difficult sometimes. So I need to explicitly teach that and show my learners what does it sound like when I'm reflecting? What does it look like when I'm writing or drawing it? And how do I use those reflections at a later date?
Yes.
Okay, so how do I make connections to it? I don't want your listeners to think, oh my gosh, Andrea, I have to buy a big book. I'm not saying that's how I do it. It can be electronic. It can be on an iPad. It can be in Book Creator, whatever. But the big thing here is documenting and valuing our learners' reflections and returning to them.
Yeah. Yes, I think returning to them is something that I struggle with, just on top of everything else, going, how can I relevantly use what we've reflected on and learned and whatever? But this makes it so much easier, especially if I think for my kindy kids, if it was a physical resource that we just have at the front of the room all the time, and I can create the expectation that, you know, if you want to have a flip through while we're doing any activity, you go for it. You use this resource rather than just having it there and we never look at it.
They own it. And I do really encourage my early years teachers in my schools to have it on display for parents at home time.
Yeah.
So they pop it out on an easel, opened up.
Yeah. Oh, so good. Oh my gosh. Everything is just so good.
I've been working on it for a while, Grace. Oh. Okay, next one is very new to me. So I've put in something that I've only been implementing like for the last term.
Ooh.
Not an expert, right? Not an expert, but loving it. And I'm actually creating a PL on this for self-paced professional learning. So I've been really working hard on this. Dual coding. So I am absolutely reading about dual coding being the theory that when we are teaching, we remember things with words and visuals. Yeah. And I do that all the time as a learner. Like, why haven't I thought of this before? But I had an opportunity to use some dual coding in some classrooms at the start of term 4 last year. And it was amazing. So it's really explicitly teaching how to dual code with kids, showing them how I can use words and images, and then giving them those visual aids like, what does a diagram look like if I want to dual code with a diagram? What does a timeline? What's an infographic? Perhaps how can I dual code on Canva? And then how do we verbally describe our dual coding? So this is something very new, this is keeping me awake. And this is my buzz at the moment, dual coding. And so if you follow me on Insta or you get my newsletter, you're going to hear more about this because it's I don't know, I'm just so inspired about it. But what I'm really keen in is how do I teach dual coding to 4-year-olds and to 15-year-olds? Okay, so it's my little passion project at the moment, girls. So watch this space.
I love it. If ever I'm getting my kids to do definitions or a vocab list or something like that, I always do it coded. So the words, the definition, and an image, and I always say to them that the image should be something that comes to your mind so that it's the thing that you're connecting to that, not just, I don't want them to just Google, I don't know, if we were trying to define a particular word and they Google that word and they just take the image from Google. I want to use the image that pops into their mind or that they associate with it, because it's about building that connection rather than putting in an image that has no relevance to them.
You're as excited as I am. Well, I think you and we could have another pot of tea talking about this. You know what my thing is too? My partnership schools. So when I talk about partnership schools, they're the schools I work with right across the year. And a big buzz in my role is when we teach things like dual coding and it goes across the whole school. And the kids go to the next year level or the year level after that, and they'll say to me, Mrs. H, we're also dual coding in year 3. And I go, that's cool. So how's it changed? Oh, now we're putting it on a timeline, which we didn't, And these students are coming up to me and they're telling me how they learn. Whole school approaches. Really cool. Okay, I've got one last one. I've left the best for last. Now, I learnt this from a kinder teacher that works in Europe, Scotland. Her name is Claire Warden. Her work around how learners think is amazing. And this is called a 3D mind map. Now, when I worked in Perth, I now work online since COVID, but I used to go to Perth once a term to work, and I met this most amazing early childhood educator called Wendy Gorman. And one day she said to me, you would love a 3D mind map. Grab this book. And basically what it is I use a black tablecloth. Okay, you can buy a thinking mat, and I'm pretty sure they'll be fabulous, but they're quite expensive. So I've got my own tablecloth, round. Now, I've used this with every age group. I've used it with adults in PL. So sometimes my professional learning day, we make a 3D mind map about thinking. So image, kind of visualize, black circular tablecloth. Inside is an object. And then I have a collection of other objects in a beautiful basket or bag that is really intriguing. So in the middle, it might be a jug of water and then all the other objects. So my learners, whether they're 4 or 50, choose an object, put it on the outside of our circle, and I record their thinking and I make a connection to the central object out. So it's a 3D mind map. And it is totally amazing because Grace might come and make a connection to my idea to her own, not the central idea, and that's okay. So basically we are building a 3D mind map, and having objects rather than words gives people multiple entries. They get excited. So sometimes when I do it with my teachers, I might say, we're going to write a unit around history together. That's our PL day. Bring in an object about history, and they bring photos and artifacts, and we build this mind map together. And all of a sudden we're like, wow, look at all the teaching ideas on this mind map. We don't need to Google anything. Okay. And it's just, yeah.
That's so, like, I can already see this as like maybe even a provocation for one of our inquiry units. Yeah, like we did, part of one of our units when we're doing change is looking at changing technology. Like I have a typewriter, so I brought that in. My kiddos have a very closely supervised to play with. Like I could, I can just as an example see myself bringing in all this old stuff and trying to get the kiddos to think, well, have you ever seen this before? Do you even know what this is? And like trying to find connections that way, and then maybe revisiting it at the end of the unit when they've done some learning and maybe their connections they make different, maybe they're the same, or maybe their reasoning has changed or whatever. Like I can already see this in my classroom.
Yeah. Look, it just brings in everything. Thinking, talking, writing, listening, it's just, questioning, creative and critical thinking, like it's the best.
I love it because like discussion seems to be so important, as we're moving away from the idea where the teacher just knows everything and the teacher stands at the front of the room and just communicate. We want to have discussion, and particularly in our high school setting, I'm sure you've been in classrooms where it just feels like the same 2 or 3 kids are prepared to keep speaking and no one else really contributes. So how do you, facilitate discussion and engage kids in like meaningful discourse, but then have opportunities and entry points for the ones who aren't perhaps super confident to speak out, or, there's so many dynamics in a classroom, and I can see how, someone being able to grab an object and put it on the mat still provides me evidence. I can see that they're engaging in something and they're thinking about it, and they might not be prepared to put their hand up and say it while everybody's silently listening to them, but I can see them thinking, and it just becomes so much more student-centered without it being so centered that it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
The thing with the mind map, I also share with the learners that my expectation really clearly is everyone will have some thinking on this map.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's number 1. The student choice of the object or their thinking, is the hook. So I'm not saying, Sierra, you must make a connection with this object. What object is it that you'd like? You know what I mean? So that openness. And then I video these I photograph them. Sometimes if my learners are at the age, they will do a walkthrough of them and record their thinking. So that will be my initial assessment. So I'll grab an iPad and Grace might come and she will quickly do a quick walkthrough about her thinking around our mind map. I will keep that, and that's initial assessment, and then I can compare it. If I ever get the beautiful invitation to come into a classroom and I can do anything I like, sometimes I do. They go, Andrea, just come in. I will do a mind map. I go, and I have my mind map objects. I've got them in a special bag now. I just change them, and the kids see my bags. I've labelled it as Mrs. H's mind map, and they like, oh, she's got a mind map thing. She's got a mind map thing. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yes, when your students are match your excitement level, I'm like, this is it. This is the creme de la creme of teaching.
So, yeah, you've got 10.
Oh, my gosh. My brain is just bursting. My heart is full. I'm so full of enthusiasm.
I must admit, having the morning with you, having this time with you, it's been pretty special for me as well. Thank you. It's been great.
Oh, we have been so blessed by your presence on our podcast. Thank you so much for lending us your expertise. And being able to nerd out about education with a fellow education nerd who's a professional education nerd. How good. Well, I think we've come to the end of our discussion, which has just been so rich. And I can't imagine that there would be anyone not taking away 1,000,001 things from this. Again, thank you so much, Andrea, for your time and your positivity. It's actually a delight to talk to you. You've just been so lovely. So thank you so much.
That is my pleasure. My pleasure. I'm hoping your followers might come and jump on and follow me on Insta.
Yes. Where can they find you?
Probably heading to my website. At the top, there's Mrs. H's Learning Hub. So that is my new membership for this year. So for the last 4 years, I've had a book club, but this year I'm having a learning hub, which is it's just starting to launch. So that's 8 collections of professional learning, book studies, a whole lot. And sign up for my newsletter. It's always highly practical. And I've got a cool blog that's called Takeaway Teaching Ideas as well. But also, jump on Insta. That's my favorite. My favorite socials. So Insta and Facebook, Andrea Hillbrick. Yeah, if you go on Insta, every week I do Hit the Books, which is a book and teaching ideas. Anyhow, I'll leave it at that. But if you're someone that likes to get teaching ideas, that might be something you might want to investigate, which would be really cool.
Well, we have had a really fun time and definitely feeling the most enthused about going back to school that I have felt so far. I think you're on board with me, Grace.
I need a thesaurus ball because I'm just so excited.
We are delighted and really, really appreciate your time. So thank you so much. Make sure that you do give Andrea a follow on Instagram and check out her website because there's heaps of useful stuff on there. And as always, we would love to connect with you on Instagram, or you can leave us a message or a review on your podcast platform of choice. Bye.